Good day, my name is Annette Voskuilen and I'm responsible for research and development at Push Braces. I would like to share the results of a recent comparative study we undertook in collaboration with Maastricht University to substantiate the functionality of push ankle-foot orthosis AFO. The typical features of steppage gait due to foot drop are clear. Push AFO was developed to help patients to attain a more stable and smooth gait pattern. User narratives reveal Push AFO reinstates normal gait pattern. We have looked into how we can quantify and objectively present this experience. As such, two questions had to be answered. First, how does Push AFO impact a patient's gait pattern? Second, how does Push AFO's functionality relate to a carbon-based orthosis? We have been able to research these questions together with Maastricht University, who partners with the University Hospital and offers a human movement science program. They dispose of a so-called Cadence setup. That's a state-of-the-art treadmill system that allows a person to walk at different speeds and inclination angles. The video shown on the surround screen contributes towards a natural gait. Securing the subject in a harness facilitated safe recording of the unsupported gait of a patient. By placing markers, the gait could be measured using a Viken system. This covers full body movement, joint angles and ground reaction forces. The subject's data was converted via the markers into a stick figure. The stick diagram comprises just the legs and torso. No markers were placed on the head. The Karen enables us to visualize and analyze the gait pattern of two subjects with foot drop in a case study. The presented results were obtained from a comfortable walking speed. The data was consistently based on a 50 duly measured step. For this, the subject walks for at least 1 minute at the same pace. The subject ran through the same process without an orthosis, with a Push AFO and with a carbon-based orthosis. A healthy subject, comparable in length, weight, age and gender, was taken from the university's database as a point of reference for each subject. Before assessing the effect of the orthosis, we first had to look at the normal gait pattern and the resultant changes due to foot drop. On the left, you can see the gait of a healthy reference, and on the right, our patient's gait. The patient is a relatively young, energetic woman. The gait pattern is shown in slow motion. The patient's unaffected leg is shown in red and the affected leg in green. The black line shows the direction of the ground reaction force. The clear, stooped posture and emphatic steps are typical. When we freeze the image at the point of the affected leg's heel strike, we can clearly see that the patient on the right puts the entire foot down rather than the heel as shown by the healthy reference. When the affected leg is in mid-stance, it's clear the patient sinks lower through the knee and has a stooped posture. This is due to a limited muscle strength in the lower leg and for this particular patient a way to find stability. At the end of the stance phase, the healthy reference shows a heel rise. The patient keeps the body weight longer on the entire foot. This results in a greater dorsiflexion, a greater knee angle and a shift of the center of gravity. This can be seen by the position of the ground reaction force. The foot drop is clear to see when we freeze the image at toe off. A subsequent point of interest is at mid-swing. Here we can clearly see that the knee is pulled up higher in order to lift the dropping foot up so it doesn't graze the ground. Although the gait pattern is the net result of all joint angles, this presentation focuses on the progression of the ankle angle in the sagittal plane. This graph depicts the progression of the healthy reference ankle angle. On the x-axis, we see one stride divided into percentages over the gait cycle. On the y-axis, we see the ankle joint angle. 0 is the neutral position at the right angle. The dorsiflexion is shown by the positive numbers and the plantar flexion is shown on the negative y-axis. The points of the gait cycle that we saw just now with the stick fingers can also be seen on the graph at mid-stance, heel rise, toe off, mid-swing and heel strike. In this graph we are looking at the stride of just one leg. When we plot the patient's kinematic pattern over the diagram of the healthy reference, we see the following differences. In mid-stance we see the greater dorsiflexion, as also seen with the stick figure. At heel rise, the figure shows beside the greater dorsiflexion also that the heel rise is later. When the patient finally rises the foot, we see the patient's ankle angle goes quickly from maximum dorsiflexion to plantar flexion, where the healthy person starts to pull up her toes and leaves the foot dropping in plantar flexion. Likewise, in mid-swing, the patient's foot remains in plantar flexion. The risk arises that the patient hit the ground with her dropping foot and stumbles. The healthy person's foot has meanwhile progressed to a neutral position to be ready for heel strike. The patient is unable to do this and places the foot down in plantar flexion. This causes an audible slap of the foot. Other aspects in the gait pattern are cadence and symmetry. If we measure the cadence, so the number of steps per minute, we see that healthy people take around 115 steps per minute, compared to the patient's 100. However, most striking is the variance. The bar length shows the range between which the step frequency varies during the measurement. The patient has a far greater step frequency variance. She therefore walks more arrhythmic. This also comes to the fore when we look at the gait symmetry. The asymmetry tells us something about the difference between the step in the left and the right leg. With 0% asymmetry, the step time of the left leg matches exactly that of the right leg. A healthy person too will have asymmetry of approximately 5% when walking. At 29%, the patient has a far greater asymmetry and much more variation within that when walking. This indicates an erratic gait pattern. The key question in this research study is, of course, whether an orthosis can impact the patient's gait pattern for the better. Let's first look at the effect of Push AFO on the total gait. The asymmetry of the gait when wearing a Push AFO has been added in blue to the image previously shown. The decreased asymmetry clearly shows. The gait pattern therefore becomes less erratic when using Push AFO. Similarly, the number of steps per minute improves. There is less variance and the number of steps increases to a normal range. As such, the walking rhythm is normal for someone of this height. This image shows the effect of Push AFO on the ankle angle during the step. We will look at the same points as just now. In the stance phase, looking at mid-stance and heel rise at the end of the stance phase, the dorsiflexion lessens somewhat. The biggest effect is discernible at toe off. The foot with brace stays in a light dorsiflexion after the foot is raised. During the full swing phase, the foot doesn't drop in plantar flexion, and when placing the foot at heel strike, the heel can touch the ground first. As such, Push AFO makes the patient's gait pattern more stable, and the risk of stumbling has been mitigated. Let's now take a look at the picture the stick figures provide us with. Here, from left to right, you can see the patient's gait pattern without the brace, the gait pattern with Push AFO, and to the far right, the healthy reference. The gait pattern is more similar to that of the healthy persons. We will pause the images again at a few points in time. At heel strike, we see that using a brace, indeed, the ankle first hits the ground with the heel. At the affected leg's mid-stance, the standing leg and torso are somewhat straighter. The same can be said at heel rise. The center of gravity is more favorable. Also, the stick figures show clearly that correction of the foot drop is evident. And the swing phase gives a pretty normal picture. Push AFO therefore contributes to a more stable, easier gait pattern. In our second research question, we want to know how Push AFO performs compared to a carbon-based orthosis. We researched this by having the subject carry out the same task with the Otto Bock WalkOn trimmable, a renowned product that caters to the same target group as Push AFO. the subject has user experience with both products. In terms of symmetry, we see that Push AFO and the carbon-based orthosis both offer improvement. Push appears to result in slightly more normal symmetry, yet in terms of variance this is not significant. Both orthoses also improve upon Cadence, a higher value and less variance. Push AFO appears to come out slightly closer to a normal scenario, although not significant. The stick figures also portray the same picture. In the left clip the subject is wearing a Push AFO and in the right clip the Otto Bock WalkOn. If we look at the effect of both orthoses on the ankle angle, we see that the effect of both products on this patient is highly comparable. Push AFO and the carbon-based orthosis both provide the same level of improvement in the gait pattern and have a comparable mechanical effect on the foot. This case study objectively shows what patients who use the Push AFO experience. Push AFO ensures a more stable, symmetrical gait pattern whereby the foot drop is compensated. And from a mechanical point of view, Push AFO matches one of the most renowned carbon-based orthoses in its class. With the dynamic support of the foot drop and free dorsiflexion, Push AFO helps patients to attain a safe and smooth gait pattern. Push AFO provides adequate support for foot drop and creates unrestricted dorsiflexion. Especially patients who have a high level of activity have high requirements on the mechanical properties of an ankle foot orthosis, and they do not want to be limited in the choice of shoes. Push AFO meets exactly these requirements. Thank you for your attention and enjoy your stay in the Virtual Experience 2020. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. You can make an appointment at a service desk in the lobby.